Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom now has previews up from multiple YouTubers showing off some of the crafting and stuff with the game, which is awesome. You can go check those out. But today I really wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind for a long time about this game. It has to do with the story and how significant Tears of the Kingdom is going to be for the entire Zelda franchise. And I think it's going to be massive, a lot bigger than what you might initially think. So today, I'm going to be talking about one of my craziest theories I've had yet about how Tears of the Kingdom could not only be one of the most important games in the entire timeline, but the last game in the current timeline. Before we get started, I want to take a second to jump into the world of Honkai Star Rail, a new multi-platform space fantasy RPG from HoYoverse. But just how you can see how action-packed and fast-paced this game is, I have 5 quick facts that you need to know about Honkai Star Rail. Number 1, Honkai Star Rail is brought to you by HoYoverse, the makers of Genshin Impact. Number 2, this cross-platform free-to-play game features an immersive story with a brand new refreshing gameplay experience. Number 3, the game is officially launching on April 25th of this year, which is right now. Number 4, this game has amazing character art design with unlimited amounts of gameplay styles that you can choose to best suit you. And number 5, this game has carefully crafted cutscenes with professional levels of audio-visual experience that feels like it's coming straight out of an animated TV series. And yes, Honkai Star Rail is out now, like right now. Check the pinned comment and link in my description to download the game. It's going to be one of the breakout RPGs of 2023, and I'm super excited. And big thanks to Honkai Star Rail for sponsoring today's video. Legend of Zelda Timeline is very confusing for casuals because it goes very deep into 3 branching timelines and apparently back into one, with Breath of the Wild being the latest in the timeline and the last game. And for a while, people have made theories wondering if this could be one of the last Zelda games until we move into a new generation of Zelda games, a new different story and timeline. Well, for a while that sounded ridiculous, but then Tears of the Kingdom came along, and from every single trailer I've seen so far, this theory has popped into my head over and over and over again. And thanks to the newest trailer, I have a very crazy theory talking about how exactly this timeline could be wrapping up with the final game after all of these years. Now, most Zelda games are obviously named after Zelda because it's technically her story, but we don't actually get a lot of games that focus on Zelda really specifically. And I feel like Breath of the Wild was one of the first games to really dive into Zelda's character and her story and her commitment to her kingdom, where Link was just there as her royal guard and there to protect her when he needed to, and obviously use his sword to help banish the darkness. It was Zelda's job to gain her powers of the goddess and seal Ganon away once again, like the Zeldas of the past have. But this story really focuses on her and shows how important this character is for the whole story. She's the one that goes around from kingdom to kingdom of Hyrule, rallying troops and the champions as well to drive the divine beast in order to take out Ganon. She's single-handedly uniting the entire kingdom and becomes an incredibly important figure, at least for Age of Calamity, where Breath of the Wild, she was imprisoned, also sealing Ganon away the entire game until she was revealed at the very end, but she was still shown off a lot in cutscenes just to show how important of a role she played and how much she blamed herself for not being able to awaken her power sooner and save the kingdom. She feels like it was all her fault. This was all her doing, that every Zelda in the past has done their job. Every Zelda in the timeline has done what they were supposed to do in order to protect her kingdom, but she couldn't do it. For some reason, she was different. In both timelines, there was only one way that she could bring out her powers. In the extra timeline from Age of Calamity, and even the one that's canon from Breath of the Wild, it was the same thing that helped bring about her powers in the first place, was Link being in danger. That's all it took, was for her love for Link to bring out her goddess powers in order to shut down all of Ganon's power and actually seal Ganon away for the next 100 years. But Zelda fulfills her role and she's done. That's it. Until Tears of the Kingdom comes along, which seems to actually extend something that we've never had happen before. We've never had a sequel or direct sequel to a Zelda game that still included both the same Link and same Zelda within that same story. So this was definitely a change of pace. It's like it wanted to continue a story that just was not finished yet. Breath of the Wild was the part 1 and Tears of the Kingdom is obviously going to be the part 2. And I think it's a lot deeper than that. Now once again, bring it back up, I think Zelda just continuously has a huge focus here. And finally, she's going to be within current cutscenes, it looks like, instead of flashbacks, which is great for Tears of the Kingdom. But it seems like almost all the trailers has a big focus on Zelda again. Yes, Link has to go into his adventure and do what he must, but it looks like Zelda is going to have a massive role in this game, probably her biggest one yet, as almost every single trailer shows stuff happening to Zelda. It shows her falling multiple times, it shows her awakening some type of new power, and it apparently shows her taking a new form. Of course, we've broken down this scene hundreds of times and showed the comparisons of Zelda and this figure, especially since they both hold a golden tear necklace. Yeah, I still think that this is Zelda in some new powered up form, which could be reverting her back to what the goddess looked like. Okay, so let's start diving into this theory. My theory is Zelda plays a magnificent role in this game. One thing that we know is that this Zelda, out of every single Zelda in the timeline, is the only one that was always worried about not becoming her true self, not becoming powerful enough to save Hyrule, and that was the most important thing on her mind, where every other Zelda thought the same thing, but this one just seems extremely committed to not letting people down after she's already felt like she did from Breath of the Wild's events. So what if this Zelda, one of the only ones in the entire timeline that is that worried about not fulfilling her role like the past Zeldas, is actually, ironically enough, going to become the most important Zelda in the timeline? The only Zelda ever to revert back to the goddess Hylia. If you don't know the story, Skyward Sword is actually the very beginning and start of the timeline, where Goddess Hylia had to save her people by moving them into the skies above when Demise and his army started taking over. And the only way for Goddess Hylia to keep her people safe was to seal herself away with Demise as well, where she would be reincarnated into a young girl named Zelda every whatever so many years. But we know Link defeats Demise at the end of that game and seals him away into the Master Sword. But the thing is, Demise promises that he will keep returning like a plague and a curse to the royal family, where he will always return and come back in just new ways and new shapes and forms, such as Ganon and even through Ganondorf and various different monsters, and it would have to be a constant ongoing battle and cycle, with Link and Zelda also being in that cycle, fighting Ganon / Demise / Ganondorf all the time through different generations, and of course they always prevail. We know this cycle continues almost every single Zelda game. Now there's some Zelda games that have a different evil, which still could be the root evil from Demise, such as Vati and even Yuga, which we know was through Ganon, which is also through Demise. But we keep going through this cycle every single time, where it looks like we defeat Ganon, but at the end of it, Ganon just continues to return in the future for a new Zelda game and a new generation of Link and Zelda. But what if Tears of the Kingdom is the game to seal away Ganon forever? And what if the only person that can do it is Zelda? This game is called Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which is probably both literal and metaphorical. It's literal in the sense that there's actual tears, it looks like even the new champions and Zelda hold, and even Ganondorf on his forehead, but at the same time, it could reference the tears of the various different kingdoms and generations that fought Ganon, and that this could be the end of the timeline. But I want to talk about these tears individually. Yes, I'm comparing these tears to Marvel, but what if these tears work as some sort of infinity stones, where these 7 tears, if collected by one individual, has the power to not only grant a magical wish like the Triforce gives, but the power to seal away something or get rid of something forever, wiping them from a timeline. So what if this game is like Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame, where it's a battle of gaining these tiers, and each tier has a special property or unique function to them that allows the user to use some special move, but collected all together and with all 7 tiers, it actually gives you immaculate power to do something devastating to the timeline. Yes, Ganondorf can be a lot like Thanos here, where maybe he's trying to collect all the stones in order to wipe out Link and Zelda from the timeline so he can rule indefinitely forever. No more cycles. Also, considering the fact that he has a stone on his head, which is red, which could have belonged to Yunobo for a while, until maybe Ganondorf killed him. That's why we don't see him in any scenes of the trailer. So what if this game is a race to the tears? Maybe if Zelda gets all the tears, she can wipe out Ganon for good in the timeline, but at the same time, Ganon can do the same thing to Link and Zelda, making this a very high stakes game. The cycle is about to end. Hey, are you enjoying the video so far? Well, if you are, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. It helps out a huge amount, and thank you to everyone that's been doing so recently. Without further ado, let's jump back into the theory. The theory goes even deeper here. We see a scene of that girl again that a lot of people think could be Zelda in the new goddess Hylia form, or at least slowly turning back into that Hylia form. I mean, we even see her shoot giant golden beams of light down from the clouds like she is the goddess here. But then we also see a scene of Ganondorf, which looks like he turned back into that ancient evil of Demise. I mean, even his fiery, flowing, glowing hair looks just like that of Demise. So I don't know if it's the tears' help that turns them back into their true forms, but what if we have a giant climactic battle between the goddess Hylia and Demise, the ancient evil, and their vessels are just pretty much Ganondorf and Zelda turned into their true forms for one final bout to end this timeline once and for all. With goddess Hylia / Zelda fighting the ancient evil of Demise, how in the world would Link be able to help here? Well, what if his sword regains the ability to call out Fi, and she comes out at the last second to talk to Link and help him during the final battle, really just cultivating and bringing everything back to what Skyward Sword started, and ending it with this game would be such a beautiful story. I mean, Breath of the Wild already has lots of cool callbacks to Skyward Sword, including the goddess statues layered everywhere, and even goddess sword blinking, kind of showing that maybe Fi is still in the sword and ready to help Link when it comes down to it, and maybe it's the master plan of the goddess that way. But yeah, I mean, it would be the only thing to kind of bring Fi back as well, because she was there as just basic instruction from the goddess and doing whatever the goddess told her to do. There's no doubt there'd be no way to top this battle. This battle would be the most epic and most insane in the entire series, because it would hold so much girth to it. But with that said, it would be amazing if they tied in a very emotional ending. I mean, I guess we can all say that Skyward Sword tugged at our heart tears a lot. The love between Link and Zelda, and seeing Link having to finally say goodbye to Fi and his sword. Not to mention the scene where Link had to say goodbye to Zelda for a while because she had to seal herself in order to go through with her task, which was a very sad scene for the two of them. And I would love to see something like this, but a lot deeper and a lot more sad, a lot darker. I'm sorry, I have to go here. Seems like every time Hylia or Zelda has to kind of imprison Ganon and imprison Demise, she has to do so herself, meaning they're both imprisoned together. So what if at the end of this, the only way to win is for her to imprison or kind of wipe herself from the timeline along with him? With no goddess Hylia, there would also be no Demise, and vice versa. So at the very end of the game, Zelda sacrifices herself, or / goddess Hylia sacrifices herself forever. Would also love to see this bring out more emotion and character from Link's side of things. Link's always there to comfort Zelda, but then Link loses the only thing that he really knew and loved, and it's gone, and you can just see it on his face. Maybe we see him cry and break down as she goes away, but then stands up in relief that this is all over for eternity. It's done. She finally fulfilled her duty. She was always worried that she would never be enough, but ends up being the most important Zelda in the entire timeline. Seeing this ending would make us all break down and cry, and be one of the most satisfying endings to such an amazing journey over the years. Hey, after all, we do hear Zelda's sad lullaby play, at least the first 3 notes at the very end of the final trailer, so maybe it's foreshadowing a very sad ending and a very sad wrap-up of the series.
Link! You must find me.
Whew, that was a emotional journey for sure. And of course, it was just the theory. Who knows how this game is going to pan out with its story and what it's going to decide to do. It's really impossible to say right now. But man, we can speculate, and what an amazing ending would that be to the saga. Now, of course, a lot of people are going to say, come on, Nintendo Land, Nintendo's not going to end Zelda games. This isn't going to stop Zelda games from being made. Of course not. But at the same time, it could start a whole new wave of stories. Maybe a new timeline, a new universe where we start from the very beginning and go through stories of new with Link and Zelda, a new Link and Zelda, and a completely new timeline and a whole new set of games and adventures through what they went through and their evil. Maybe they don't fight Ganon. Maybe their evil is something completely different, and maybe the story is a little different this time around with new characters and new things all around. That would be really cool. And right now, yeah, the timeline is kind of scrambled. Even Nintendo keeps track of the timeline, and they don't really know what to do besides branch it off in 3 different lines. But at the end of the day, it'd be a better way to kind of make a new timeline, a better one, and maybe they wrap this whole saga up once again, just like Avengers did with the Infinity Saga, and maybe they wrap everything up in a nice bow and kind of give this whole entire series of Zelda games its own name, like the Triforce Saga, or maybe the Tears Saga or something. I don't know, but I think that would be really cool. And then just having us kind of start all over again with a brand new timeline and a brand new Link and Zelda, or maybe they even changed their names. Could you imagine a Zelda series that's not called Zelda anymore? It's like a new name. I don't think Nintendo would do that for marketing reasons, but who knows? This could definitely be the changing point and the turning point for the Legend of Zelda series as we know it, and I cannot wait to see what Nintendo has in store. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this theory, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things The Legend of Zelda and of course Tears of the Kingdom in general, and let me know what you think of this theory and if you would like to add to it or any theories that you have as well. Thank you so much for tuning in, and like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See you guys.